Hey guys, welcome back to GeekJ, where we make tech, tutorials and gaming simpler and better. A few days ago, Mortal Cell 2 was released, and once again, upon launching the game, the default settings are weird to say the least. And some of the comments in some of the settings are even weirder and offensive in my humble opinion. So let's see what the game has to offer in its default vanilla state, and then see how we can improve its visuals and performance without the lockdowns the developers and the big corporations are trying to push, so we keep buying their new hardware. Now, as soon as we launch the game, let's immediately check out the display settings over here. And right off the bat, we can see the automatically render resolution has been set to balanced, and that's kind of weird. And the AppScaler is set to FSR. VSync is also set to on over here. Frame generation is set to off. The overall quality, as you can see over here, is set to medium. And if I scroll down over here, unfortunately, some of the image and quality effects have been set to on by default, like chromatic aberration, film grain, and vignette, but thankfully motion blur is off by default, and we do have toggles for all of these. So earlier I also mentioned that some of the comments they make over here on some of the options are offensive, and you can clearly see that if we go to the frame generation section over here. It says allows you to select the frame generation method, off is default, DLSS enabled, recommended for NVIDIA GPUs 4000 series and above. So if you're on 2 or 3000 RDX GPUs, you cannot use that for some reason. Now FSR is a little bit more forgiving, so we might have some leeway over there. But yeah, NVIDIA, as always, unfortunately is just looking to bank some more buck and not actually service their customers. But yeah, it is what it is. So let's check out how the game looks and performs without touching any of the settings. This is the default experience that we would get, and you guys have to realize we are tinkerers. We like to mess with the settings and stuff. Most of the people will just press on new game and then just experience the game on its default settings. So that is very concerning in my opinion, especially for PC gamers. So I'm gonna go over here and select the continue. We haven't touched any of the settings, and as soon as we load into the game world, the pixel instability is what kind of hit me first, as you can see, especially on the armor of the main character over here. The ground and grass also look kind of awful, and this is because it has a blanketing effect of fog over these elements, and if we move the camera, it's not that offensive. But then if we settle with the camera for some reason, then it looks like this, very noisy. Then I want to show you a bit of what I'm talking about with the rest of the ground and the pixel instability and the simmering everywhere. And keep in mind, we haven't enabled any of the hardware ray tracing, so yeah, it kind of looks like this. And then if we go into the main starting area over here, we can see a lot of those problems translating over here. Unfortunately, textures already look blurry, but I do see the sharpening filter trying to fix that in some areas especially. But yeah, the instability all over the image is very, very prominent, unfortunately. And since we are on the balanced preset of FSR, the result is a very pixelated image in general, and the lighting is a big telltale sign of that, as it is also very unstable and is simmering pretty badly, as you can see over here. Now, performance is okay. Oh, hello there. We are hitting the VSync limit over there almost constantly, so 165 FPS. So performance wise, we are okay, I guess. Unfortunately, on camera movement, everything looks worse and the image gets very, very smudgy as well. But yeah, as I mentioned before, performance is okay, and we do get that 165 FPS lock. But in general, as I'm walking around the area over here, this is the starting area. I really feel like I'm back in time playing my PlayStation 3 in regards to these default settings the game automatically applied to my display settings. Now let's try getting this game to look as best as possible and see what performance we get out of that. So let's begin with getting the render resolution to native. Probably that is the way to go over here. Then I'm going to be switching to the Unreal Engine's TSR as the AppScaler or anti-aliasing kind of element over here, since we are on native resolution. I'm also going to disable vertical sync and set the FPS limit to unlimited. And then for the quality section, I'm going to set this to ultra. And also, let's try getting hardware ray tracing on over here. And also let's try to disable the dreadful kind of effects like chromatic aberration, film grain, and vignette. Since motion blur is off, I'm not gonna bother with that. I'm gonna press A to apply my settings over here. Then I'm gonna go back to the main menu and reload the exact same save file over here, so we get the most apples to apples comparison we can. So we are on native TSR ultra preset with hardware ray tracing on. The game now looks a lot better, with most of the issues showing improvement at least, and the performance is about 90 FPS now. When I was not recording in this exact same area, I was getting around 100 FPS. If we move on to the main area where, you know, most of the gameplay happens, in this starting area, we will see higher FPS, but over here with the grass and the fog and stuff in the very, very start of the starting area, we do get 91 to 93 FPS. Over here, the ground and grass textures are vastly improved, but we can still see some pixel instability and shimmering, and we do get that weird noise effect on top of that with some flickering on top of it. So, you know, overall the image does look better over here, but let's move on a little bit further into the main area and see how this looks. We still get some pixel instability and shimmering, especially in the paddles over here, as you can see on the floor. The blurriness is also still here, unfortunately, and we can see especially in more distant objects or on the sides of the screen for some reason, even though we have vignette disabled. But I don't know if you can see, especially in the top right, I can see that the tree for some reason gets blurry over here on the far right of the screen, especially if I move the brighter part to that side, it gets kind of skewed and blurry. So yeah, kind of weird over there selection for how the camera works, and vignetting is off as I mentioned before. And unfortunately I can also spot some ghosting in moving particles, which is more noticeable when I move the camera as well, even though we're not utilizing any of the app scaling technologies of TSR. This is native resolution, and the frame generation is also off. But yeah, as you can see over here with the particles, it's not very visible and not on all particles, but if I do move the camera, I do start seeing some trailing over there, and the character does have some you know, ghosting trailing behind him. But yeah, overall, as you can see, 92, 94 FPS on average around here. Obviously, if you're not recording like I am, you're gonna get a little bit of a higher performance over here in this section. But yeah, for now, this is what I'm getting while we are recording and fighting. Hey, got him. So yeah, image quality wise, Ultra is a big improvement over the medium preset, and lighting is also looking much better, although we do see some noise in reflections, shadows and light, like in arrays and stuff like that, but that is kind of a given, especially since we don't have any access to ray regeneration and stuff, but it's not that prominent as it was before. It is looking much better, as you can see over here. But unfortunately, yeah, the instability and shimmering are very present, and we do get some aliasing. But yeah, with TSR, as you can see in that box that is receiving some light over there from that you know, thing on the tree, we do see blurriness, especially if we move it to the side of the screen. But yeah, even if this is at the center of our attention, as I'm moving away from it, this is very blurry, and then as we move towards it, if we stop moving, it does become clear. And yeah, this is kind of a weird implementation for a TSR. Usually TSR is pretty sharp, but the implementation in this game, even though it does have some sharpness applied by default, looks very blurry, especially in the distance, as you can see over here. The fog effect doesn't help a lot, but since we have the film grain effect also disabled, we don't get that weird effect, especially in the kind of destroyed parts of the towers over there in the distance, where we could see like a checker box effect or something before. It's a lot better now, but yeah, it does look blurry behind the fog, if that makes any sense for you guys. If you're watching this through YouTube, because, you know, we also have YouTube compression and stuff. I do try to upload in the maximum possible quality, but yeah, the compression is still compression. Now, TSR on quality. So let's go on ahead and only switch to quality. We're not going to change anything else. As you can see, we're still on Ultra preset, and hardware ray tracing is on, and everything else we're going to keep as is. As you can see over here, I'm going to scroll through all of our settings. Chromatic aberration off, film grain off, vignette off, and motion blur is by default off. So let's reload the exact same save file over here. So now TSR on quality is a big yikes for me. This looks awful, and I have to admit I was not expecting this. It looks extremely bad, and I initially thought I made a mistake, and that I thought I set this on performance or ultra performance or something and not quality, but nope, this is TSR quality on ultra settings, and we're now getting around 130 FPS on average. We can see 124 in this specific section, and the grass looks extremely bad, unfortunately. Very blurry, pixelated, shimmering, and we get those flickering kind of shadows on top of the whole thing. I think the shimmering is what kills it for me completely. It's shimmery as hell, and the whole image has got that smeary, blurry effect, which I usually describe as it looks like I've applied a thin layer of Vaseline over my screen, and this is a very accurate description of what I'm seeing right now. Unfortunately, it's a pretty bad showing for TSR over here. And just to show you guys, we are on TSR quality, so this is what we're getting. And yeah, this is starting to look very bad immediately. As you can see in the distance, the foliage, especially those plants on the falling walls, as you can see over here where I try to put the head of the character over there, are very shimmery. The trees over here, the leaves over here are very shimmery, and unfortunately everything in the distance is supposed to be covered in fog, but the fog looks extremely blurry and unstable. So let me go back to the same position we were before. So it's very unstable, and it is very distracting, to say the least. And we do start to see some weirdness on the ground over here when the winds move, you know, the dirt, and there's that dust wave coming forward. It's like TSR doesn't really know what to do with that, and it's like some of the wood panels over here are kind of shifting for some reason. But yeah, we do get a bump in performance, But yeah, this is very, very distracting. I wouldn't actually choose to play like this even if I had performance issues. Now for science, as always, we will also test the lowest possible app scaling setting offered over here. So let's see what that is. I'm gonna go into display settings and we get balanced, performance, and we get ultra performance as well. And we usually do this specifically to benchmark how the app scalers perform. So after applying those settings, we're gonna hit continue to load the exact same save file over here. And basically I'm gonna let the image do the talking, guys. We are back at, 160, 165 FPS on average, but this is one of the worst results I've seen an app scaler output. I know this is ultra performance and we've tested a lot of games. This looks like an image that is completely destroyed. All of the previous problems are super exaggerated. Now we get, that smudge for grass, and unfortunately we get this flashing, like we are getting flashbang with the game every few seconds, and this is getting very, very crazy, unfortunately. And yeah, warning to people that have medical issues. This is gonna get you to the hospital real quick. I'm not even kidding. But yeah, the moving dirt thing, like I told you before, the dust on the ground, is so confusing to the TSR app scaler that the ground textures and the whole image, it looks like it doesn't even know what to draw, and everything is moving around basically left and right. And yeah, I'm gonna get a seizure as well, even though I don't have a medical condition with this. But yeah, pixelation, instability, simmering, this is beyond words, unfortunately. Ooh, still winning, baby. Especially the flashbanging is, I don't know, kind of crazy. But yeah, this is what we get. Now we're gonna try to switch to FSR. Me trying to switch to FSR from TSR for some reason resulted into multiple game crashes. We haven't done any modification to the game, by the way, yet, but yeah, it does tend to crash. We're gonna go with native, and then let's see, yep, TSR just crashed the game. Gonna try launching it again over here, see how that goes. But yeah, this is a repeatable bug, let's say, of the game, so keep that in mind. If you go back into the game and then into the options and do the same thing, most likely it is going to work. Everything seems to be okay, and everything we had disabled is still disabled. So let's hit continue over here, and this is gonna be the native AA result basically. Now FSR 3.1.5 or 1.4, I don't know exactly which one is the fallback version for 4.1, I think, FSR that is bundled in this game. Yeah, the native AA looks sharper than TSR native, as you can see over here, but at the same time the simmering is much more prevalent for some reason in specific locations, but we don't get that flickering on top as prevalent as before, and the fog seems to be a lot more stable, and it does look like fog instead of just noise over the textures of, the grass and all its particles. Pixel stability on the characters and armor is still very clearly visible, especially if the light hits the armor correctly in some specific spots over here. But yeah, performance is roughly the same, maybe a little bit better, as you can see, compared to TSR. So we get 96 FPS compared to 91 we're getting with TSR native, and when I was not recording I got like 102 to 105 FPS around here, so a little bit of a performance gain over the TSR result. So let's move on to the main area over here. But yeah, as you can see, the pixel instability and simmering is much more prevalent with FSR, even on native AA. The particle ghosting is improved with FSR over here on native AA. I don't know how this is gonna perform in the other presets yet, but yeah, this looks better. Even on camera movement, we don't get those trails. If I move the camera a lot, then I do sometimes get some ghosting trails behind some of the particles. If there's a lot of particles like over here and I keep moving, you know, my camera, I will see some trails and some ghosting, but I don't think anyone would do that in actual gameplay. Overall, it looks a bit more stable as the overall image, but the simmering and pixel instability is a bit worse with FSR 3.x over here. But I think it's sharper and we don't get those blurry like side effects we were getting with TSR. As you can see, the box over there is pretty clear and sharp, and as we move toward it, it doesn't really change. We just see more details because we're closer to the object. But yeah, the ground looks more shimmery, unfortunately, especially at the puddles over here, but the OptiScaler seems to handle the dust waves from the wind a lot better, so we don't see any, you know, image movement yet on native AA. But yeah, we'll see how it does with lower, you know, presets. So let's go into display over here. We're gonna go with quality, and I'm gonna press A to apply settings, and then we're gonna go into system, exit to main menu, and I'm gonna load the exact same save file over here. Okay, so FSR quality does give us a nice performance bump as we get to around 121 over here at the very starting area, and then we will get up to 126 while I'm recording, and then I think the overall average for this was 130 FPS without recording. So yeah, it's a nice bump over here. So we get 30 FPS plus over the 100 we had on native AA. And we do see, unfortunately, a lot of image degradation over here. And I think it is doing a much better job than TSR quality over here, but the grass is looking more pixelated, but more, let's say, stable. We do see some simmering, but still the flickering of the shadows is not that bad, and the fog is not looking that bad. It still looks like fog instead of, you know, some kind of noise effect on top of the grass and ground textures over here. We obviously get more aliasing, as you can see over here, and it is a bit more blurry, but overall it's nowhere near the degradation we experienced with TSR earlier in the exact same preset. So let's move in to the actual main starting area over here. So again, break these and look at how this looks. Not too bad, but again, we do get the pixel instability and simmering on the floor, especially on the paddles over there. We do get some weirdness with the effects. As you can see, the glow over there from that tree does look a little bit weird, and the OptiScaler doesn't really know exactly what to do. This kind of weirdness with the effects carries over with a lot of the effects, not only the light coming out of that thing, but also some of the torches that we saw earlier do produce some kind of a weird effect, and some of the particles from the embers tend to go transparent or completely disappear. And yeah, you can see over here what I'm talking about. It does tend to be a bit more blurry, and some of the particles tend to kind of disappear over here with FSR on quality mode, unfortunately. As you can see in the distance, we do start to see some of the vertical lines, so it's not exactly as checkerboxy as the TSR result was on quality mode, but it does look like it's doing a better job than what TSR was doing over here before. It retains the image much better than TSR so far. So let's try this on ultra performance. I'm gonna apply settings, then we're gonna go back to the main menu and reload the exact same save file. Okay, so setting this to ultra performance does bring us back to, you know, pretty high FPS. When I was not recording, I was constantly hitting the 165 FPS VSync limit over here on average, but boy oh boy, I can't decide which one is worse, TSR or FSR. The screen is now flashing black, so we're not getting flashbanged, so I'm gonna give a point to FSR, I guess, over here, but that's the only plus, I guess, we get, because everything else is just horrible. TSR Ultra Performance had the grass looking a lot more grainy, but this one also looks kind of noisy. We still kind of get the feeling that this is fog, but the grass is just a smudge and we cannot really make out what everything is on the floor. It's pretty much a Nintendo 64 experience, so we moved back from PlayStation 3 experience to Nintendo 64 experience with you know, ultra performance over here in this game. And we have a lot of blurriness everywhere. Pixel instability is off the charts, simmering. You know, everything overall is pretty bad as an experience in general. And let's go check out how everything else looks. Like the fires didn't change much, a bit more pixelated, but yeah, we do get the same problem we had with quality over here. But let me jump down. We do get a lot of simmering, but everything is simmering. We get some horizontal lines on the screen. I don't know if this is gonna be visible on the YouTube video as well, but fortunately we do not get that dust wind, you know, effect where the whole image was moving with TSR. But yeah, it still looks bad, and whenever that, you know, flashing of the black screen happens, it's not white, so it's good, but still when it happens we can see that everything for a split second becomes like super pixelated. So that's very, very weird over here. But yeah, I would call this a win for the built-in FSR 3.x, which is the fallback for FSR. I think 4.0.3 or 4.1 is the bundled version. But yeah, the fallback, I don't know exactly which one they're using. It's either 3.1.4 or 3.1.5. I would give this to the FSR, built-in FSR version, just because we don't get the flashbang every second over here. So if I was, I don't know, on a handheld device that is very underpowered, I would maybe try to use Ultra Performance. But just as an overall result, you guys should know that the built-in FSR and when we try to install FSR4 do kind of not have these problems when we go to performance instead of ultra performance. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. And I can quickly actually demonstrate this. We can go to performance over here instead of ultra performance, and you can see that the image looks much better. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to demonstrate this or the game will crash. Let's see. So yeah, TSR right now does look, it doesn't do flashbanging, but unfortunately in the distance we get a lot of, you know, artifacting. Everything looks super bad, and the ground textures and everything after the dust wind passes kind of shifts around all the time. So still I would give the win to FSR, the built-in FSR here. Since we now have a clear image of how the game looks and performs with its built-in app scalers, let's try and see what we can do to improve this situation. As always, we will be using one of this channel's favorite tools, OptiScaler. And there have been multiple updates, and now the beta version is the version 0.9.5 pre-2. And as a new addition, we finally get nightly builds for the version 10 that allows RDNA2 users like me to use 4.1.1 int 8 versions of FSR4. But since the general advice from the OptiScaler developers themselves for RDNA2 users is to just stick with the 4.0.2c, we're just gonna be moving forward with that for this particular video. So first of all, we need to go into the official GitHub page, scroll down a little bit further, then we will see this official Discord server link over here. And if we click on that and we accept the invite, we are now going to be on Discord in their own server. And as always, don't worry, I will have links for everything in the description below. Now, the first thing we need to do is go over here where it says Opti Test Builds. We're going to click on this. And as you can see, this is the latest version, OptiScaler version 0.9.5. That's pre-2 as of the recording of this video, and we're gonna download it by clicking on this hot link over here where it says OptiScaler v 0.95 pre-2, and we're gonna click on this arrow over here that says download, and after that is done, we're gonna move to the other text channel over here with the name resources-light, and from over here we're gonna scroll to the bottom of that. If it doesn't auto scroll to the bottom, we want the FSR4 int 8 4.0.2c, as you can see over here. So we're gonna click on this DLL re-uploads. It has this 2 messages hot link. We're gonna click on that, then we're gonna see these DLL re-uploads messages over here. We're gonna scroll to the bottom of these, and we need the 4.0.2c with RDNA2 fix over here, and we're gonna download this file as well. With everything downloaded, as you can see on the left side of my screen over here, I really like to prepare a folder that I can use for any game I want to install OptiScaler in. So I first extract the OptiScaler in its own folder. So I'm gonna right click on this 0.9.5 pre-2 over here, go to show more options. I'm gonna go with 7-zip and then extract to OptiScaler. And the full name of the folder is going to create, so it does create a new folder, as you can see over here. And then I like to follow it up with extracting the FSR 4.0.2c binary in that folder, overriding the existing binary. So I just double click on this and then drag and drop this AMD FidelityFX app scaler on top of that folder over here. And then I get the message to replace a file in destination, and I click on it. And we're pretty much ready to go over here. If we open up this folder over here, with all that done, I select everything and then deselect the stuff I'm not going to need. So basically, I just select everything and then deselect the licenses, the README over here, and then the Linux setup that we're not going to use. And then I just copy everything into the game directory I'm going to be using this. So right-click copy, and then right-click paste, and we need to copy everything into the subfolder that contains the actual executable of the game. So in general, the fastest way, as I've shown in multiple videos I've done before, right-click on the game, go to manage, and then browse local files. And then from there, we just go into the Mortal Shell 2 subfolder, then binaries, then Win64, and this is where the real actual game executable is located. So we copy everything in here, and then we will run the setup windows.bat file over here. So double click on it, and as I mentioned in all of my videos, don't just copy my choices blindly. Select the options that correspond to your hardware setup. So for me, I'll just go with dxgi.dll because I'm on Windows and this game is utilizing DirectX 12. So we're going to go with 1 and then press enter. I am on an AMD GPU. This is an RDNA2 system. So I'm going to be selecting number 1 again, which is the same for AMD or Intel GPUs. So press 1 and then press enter on your keyboard. I will also select yes or 1 again on using the DLSS inputs over here and then press enter. And if you see the same as me over here, you're offered to install OptiPatcher, then definitely accept that. And once this is done, so press 1 and then enter, we will see this screen that says OptiScaler setup completed successfully. Press any key to continue. We can press any key. And now we're basically ready to fire up our game again. So once we load in, we are going to go directly into the options over here and then the display settings. And from here, we're going to select DLSS as our app scaler, and then we have to apply that setting. So we're going to go with DLSS, as you can see, which is available over here. We're going to keep it at native, and I'm going to hit the A button on my controller over here to apply these settings. And then immediately we're going to go back into our keyboard over here, and we're going to hit the insert key, and that will bring up the OptiScaler menu. Now from here, for the app scalers, as you can see, we are going to set our app scaler to FSR3.x and then hit this button that says change app scaler. Do not forget to do that step, because otherwise you're not going to be using FSR, you're using the XeSS, as you can see over here. So click on it. It's gonna look like it's frozen for a few seconds. Just don't touch anything and wait for it to come back. And then we need to make sure that over here under the FFX settings, FSR4.0.2c is the one selected. Now over here on the frame generation section, we will select the DLSSG via Streamline option over here for our input, and then for our output, I'm gonna go with XeFG, and then I'm gonna click on this button that says Save Settings over here, and then Close. Do not forget to click the Save Settings button, then Close, because after you exit out of the game, it doesn't properly save because you didn't tell it to, and then you have to do all those settings all over again. So just save yourself some time and frustration and click on those Save Settings and Close buttons at the end. And now we're ready to start testing how the game looks and performs, starting with native AA for FSR 4.0.2c over here. So yeah, again, this is native AA, so we're just utilizing the anti-aliasing part of FSR4 without any app scaling taking place, and it does look really good. So we have no pixel instability, no shimmering, as you can see over here, and the image overall is looking sharper where it should, and it's not aliased as it was before. And we don't see any of the other problems, especially over here with the grass. It does look, you know, like it's under fog instead of just looking kind of weird under a, you know, noisy filter or something like that. So let's move on to the main area over here, so we can check out how everything else is looking. And yeah, as you can see, we have 0 pixel instability, 0 shimmering over here. And if we check the particles over here, we do look pretty good over here. And if we move the camera kind of abruptly over here, we don't see any signs of trails or ghosting. So these are very good signs over here. And this is a pretty good visual result. And the performance is pretty much on par. It's around 96-97 FPS over here, and while I was not recording, I did get that 100 to 100 FPS on average. And as you can see on the distance over there, we don't see any weirdness or blurriness to the box. It looks kind of exactly the same. If we go close to it, we don't see any shimmering in the puddles. We don't see any weirdness with dust winds over here. The upscaler seems to be dealing with this very well. Ooh, the challenger is back. Oh no, he's not. One shot. Okay, let's switch to FSR quality over here. So we're gonna set this to quality and then press A to apply the settings. Then we're gonna go to the main menu and reload the exact same save file over here. So I'm gonna press insert on our keyboard over here. As you can see, we are using the FSR4 preset 1 instead of 0, and you can see over here that we are upscaling from 720p to 1080p. So this is actually, you know, working, and we're getting around 115 FPS on average. I was getting 117 to 120 to 23 depending on the area over here. So yeah, the performance is okay. We do get some weirdness on the grass over here depending on how the light is hitting it, but it is looking much better than what it did with TSR quality and FSR quality, the built-in version, as we saw before. And everything overall looks much clearer, and we do get normal fire effects over here with the particles not disappearing and looking weird as we did see before. It's a nice bump into performance. It's not, you know, like extreme. Still, it is a very stable image without any shimmering and pixel instability over here, so I'm very happy with that. So basically, yeah, I don't have any complaints with this. Obviously, we will see some image degradation over here, but nothing too offensive. It is just upscaling from 720p, so I think it's very normal, especially for FSR4 to look and perform really good. Yeah, so no complaints here. Everything in the distance is looking really nice, with the fog looking, you know, like a fog and not just grainy thing over there. So let's try going to ultra performance here and test this out as well. Again, exit to main menu. And yeah, let's press insert to actually see that we are upscaling from 360p to 1080p over here. So this is already very demanding of the upscalers, and we are doing this for science. But yeah, as you can see, this is an apples to apples comparison, and yes, it does hold up better than the TSR and FSR 3.x built-in solutions, but there are multiple issues, as you can see over here. The image quality is not that great, and we're not used to FSR4 looking, you know, this bad. But yeah, the textures are starting to look very blurry, and as you can see, the grass over here does look weird, and we do get this, you know, a flashing effect. Thankfully, it's not white as it is with TSR, so we're not getting flashbanged every few seconds. But yeah, everything does look kind of weird. We do get better effect image quality retention, and the particles are not, you know, disappearing. The characters look okay, and the foliage over here looks okay, but once we taking some distance and seeing how it performs with the fog effect above any of the other objects and textures, it does look pretty bad. It's better, don't get me wrong, it's better than, you know, as I mentioned, TSR and the built-in FSR solutions, but it does look weird. So this does look a lot better in comparison to the other results, but yeah, it's still not, you know, amazing looking, and we do get that weirdness every few seconds. As you can see with the dust winds, you know, hitting the screen, it does get very pixely, and it is very weird that the game bugs out like this with all of the upscalers, unfortunately. Now, performance-wise, yeah, we do get a nice boost. We are hitting 136, 135 FPS on average, but yeah, as you can see, we do get that annoying pixelation flicker, and it does produce some weird noise, as you can see in various elements of the screen. The champion is back. Hey, got him. But yeah, even though we get the boost, it's not something I would willingly choose to utilize to play this game. Since we do have access to FSR4 because of OptiScaler, I think we can actually make this work by utilizing frame generation much better than relying into extremely low presets of the upscalers themselves. So let's restart our game once again for the OptiScaler frame generation settings to get applied correctly. But before we do that, we're going to go into the display settings, and I'm going to set this to the quality preset. Then I'm going to hit A to apply these settings, then I'm going to go back to system, and then I'm going to hit quit. So now back into our game, we can now go into our display settings once again, and we've already set the upscaler to the quality preset. What we are going to do is enable the frame generation over here, and as you can see, it does say DLSS, which means we're not using DLSS frame generation, but we are going to use that binary to inject whatever upscaler or frame generation binary we want into it, and it's going to be using its inputs over here. And then it says frames to generate, and we can go to up to 3 times. We're gonna go with 2, I guess. press A to apply these settings. Then immediately after we apply the settings and the settings have been saved, we're gonna press the insert key on our keyboard once again, and the OptiScaler menu will pop up. And over here under the frame generation XeFG settings, we're gonna check this active checkbox over here. And then we're gonna go to the frame rate section over here, and it says current method XELL. We're gonna set our XELL FPS limit to 3 frames below our monitor's maximum refresh rate. So in my case, this is going to be 162. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to hit this button that says apply limit. Then we're going to hit the save settings button, and then we're going to close. And now we can load back into the exact same save file. And basically these are my recommended settings for Mortal Cell 2 if you have a similarly powered rig as mine. So the system doesn't have to work that hard, so it works cooler, and we are getting minimal to no input lag since we're hitting above 60 FPS as our base FPS, as you can see over here. So if I press the insert key on my keyboard over here, you can see we are upscaling from 720p to 1080p. The current Streamline FG state is on. We're utilizing XeFG with XeLL, and everything works perfectly fine. And let's do a little run around over here. No input lag whatsoever on my side over here. Game is looking really good. I don't see any ghosting or trails behind the particles. Even when I move the camera, everything is looking great. And we're constantly hitting that 81 FPS limit with set over there, and everything is working perfectly fine. So that is where Mortal Cell 2 lands for me on this RX 6800 XT on my AM4 base system with a 5800X3D CPU. The default medium preset with FSR Balanced can give you, the 165 FPS number in this opening area on average, but I would not call the image quality a win. So Ultra at native looks much better, but costs you performance, and the built-in TSR quality was a mess in this test, and the built-in FSR quality was a little bit better than TSR, but still comes with a lot of compromises. So the FSR route through OptiScaler is the one I would actually use here. Native AA gives us the cleanest image and the most stable image. Quality gives us a much better balance at around 118 FPS in this area, and then if we do choose to utilize XeFG, it just lets us make the most of that base performance without having to play at the brutal ultra performance settings, and I actually got no extra input lag whatsoever. I did a lot of testing with this, and it felt amazing and super smooth. As always, your mileage may vary depending on the area of the game you're testing, your resolution, drivers, and the rest of your hardware. So test it on your own system and do not just blindly copy every choice I make in this video and every option I select. But if you're on a similar RDNA2 setup, these are the settings I would just start with. If this helped you get Mortal Cell 2 looking better with FSR4 on your RDNA2 setup, smash that like button, subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a GeekJ video. If you want to take it further, consider joining the GeekJ squad for early access and other exclusive perks, or drop a super thanks if you're feeling generous, of course. Massive shout out to my channel architects, Paris STR and Kostas Dari. You guys are and forever remain legends. Drop your results in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and yeah, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.